The Connecticut Business and Industry Association, CBIA, is a statewide employer association similar to a Chamber of Commerce. We're actually we reflect a merger of a manufacturers association and a Chamber of Commerce. So it brought together the service sector on the chamber side and the manufacturing on the manufacturing side. And we really have three lines of business. One is as a voice at the state capitol to promote a favorable business climate. Second, we have a large group insurance program that we offer to our members, and that really targets the under 50 life company. And the third area is providing direct services, consulting and counseling, to keep them, in some respects, out of their lawyer's office when we can, because sometimes that just drains resources from the company when there are disputes for which they need legal representation, but also primarily to educate them about employment law matters, hiring, firing, discrimination issues, wage and hour, and the like. And most of my day is spent on the phone with, throughout the course of the year, with thousands of our member companies, speaking to them about those kinds of issues. And during the recession, it was a very depressing time to go to work because all we were talking about was letting people go, how to save money, how to cut costs, and things like that. And although we do represent the largest companies in the state, the large corporations with tens of thousands of employees, those are relatively few compared to the thousands and thousands of businesses that have 10, 20, 30, 40 employees. And those are the ones primarily that I speak to on a regular basis. And during the recession, all we talked about was cutbacks. And referring the shared work program to them, it was a poorly publicized program, but very well received once companies would learn about it. And they had to get over some hurdles to say, oh, yeah, okay, but what is it? How does it work? Things like that. And in my experience, if I don't hear back from a company after they give them advice, it usually means things are going well. They call and let me know when I've given them bad advice or they're continuing to have problems. And what I've heard from companies is that the shared work program has become an operational tool for them that does establish that job security, the preservation of institutional knowledge and skill that they've built up with a lot of their workers. And while I don't have any data to back this up, I have a sense that it does result in less of a hit on their unemployment tax rate because it does diminish the ultimate degree of claims activity that may be taking place. The Connecticut Labor Department has been very cooperative from my perspective in the feedback I've heard from companies in their flexibility in administering this. Some companies that initially had difficulty with the paperwork and filing the applications ultimately have been able to pass the task over to an administrative assistant who can prepare the filings on a weekly basis to submit the participants in the shared work program. And it becomes a day-to-day task that's easily manageable. The Labor Department also, during the recession, they have limited staff, so they did have a considerable backlog in approving the applications for shared work participation, but they were essentially permitting companies to implement the program within a week or two's time at most, and essentially not backdating, but once the approval was granted, it was as of the date the program was submitted for approval. And as a result, it gave the companies the quick relief that they were seeking when they were looking at payroll costs, overhead costs, and work coming in the door, and overhead expenses, and saying, we need relief quick. We've got to do something within a week's time. We're going to have to let a couple of people go, or can we adopt this alternate program? And so I think the cooperation and flexibility of the Labor Department in administering it in that fashion really did work well. I've advised companies to submit for approval as broad a range of workers as they think might be helpful in implementing shared work. I don't like to use the concept of applying for a line of credit because then you think, God, we're going to give the card to someone and they're going to take advantage of the situation. But really establishing the program in as broad a fashion as they can so that they can roam around their workforce and apply shared work reduction of hours and earnings on an as-needed basis, depending on the department, the group of workers that are most appropriate to reduce their hours. And sometimes it is just simply sharing the pain among a larger group of workers. Because most of our members are smaller companies, and in fact, the report I've gotten from the Connecticut Labor Department is that the tendency is for smaller employers with 10 to 50 employees as the most prevalent users of shared work programs. Those companies, if they're not a family-owned business, they're often running it like a family business. And they do have that collective sense within the company that, boy, if my neighbor got laid off, the guy that works at the bench next to me, while I'm breathing a sigh of relief, I'm also looking over my shoulder and a little nervous about what may happen to me in a week or so. So I think there is a sense of community in most of those companies, and so the program has proven successful in that regard. I'm told that upwards of 90% of the participants in Connecticut are companies, are manufacturing companies. They're at all skill levels, not just the lower paid, but it has been shared with participation among the higher paid employees. And that's another aspect that employers have really appreciated, that they can apply for it, be approved, participate one week, not participate another week, and they can jump in and out like that. And the Labor Department's been very cooperative in working in that fashion. I understand many employers in Connecticut have applied for they've resubmitted for approval after the 6-month initial period. And just a final observation from a comment that was made earlier, that this is a valuable program heading into a recession. Well, I think it could be a valuable program heading out of a recession. You know, the hiring activity at temp firms picks up. That's kind of the leading indicator that things are picking up. Many employers are reluctant to bring people on a full-time basis because they're hesitant to commit. Well, they could do that maybe with a bit more security if they knew they had the flexibility to cut back when they had to. And so it could be a tool to be used coming out of a recession also, I think. So I'll stop there and welcome any questions throughout the rest of the presentation.